had to kick them. That's just the way it is. It's their own fault. See, and now they've made it silly, and I haven't got my camera angles right or nothing. That needs to go away. That needs to go away.
You know, you can see us at the bottom because it's still there.
I'm trying to do that, but you were being a... Get out. Get out. Backstage shenanigans.
I was trying to lick Amber.
Backstage shenanigans going
Look at
on.
my boobs. Look at them. They're real.
There's real boobs.
These are real boobs. I don't have any, I'm not stuffing or anything. These are my real titties. They're tiny, but they're real, and they're mine.
All right, let me see. Are you in the right spot now? There we go. There we go. Now you've got a big score. Big score. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming back tonight. Do let me know about the audio, whether it's working and shit like that. I have had, as you have noticed, had to change rooms or whatever. So let me know if it's all sounding okay. There's no echo and shit like that. And yeah, tonight we have stolen Bree because I guilted her into feeling like a traitor and having to leave a certain other person's stream. But we have been privileged, as always, to have... I'm not muted. I'm not muted. Rob, I hate you. I'm not muted. During the week, or was it last week, Skeptic, would you like to tell us the story of how it happened and what is the build up to tonight's stream topic?
Yes, I met the man, the myth, the legend himself, Dr. Frank Turek, in person, in the flesh.
Is he a doctor?
I don't know. I've seen that title attributed to him.
Yeah,
I don't know.
he's a doctor of divinity. I got my fact checker in the live chat. Maya, you want to look into that for us? She's always really fast about it.
Okay, let me know how the audio levels are better now. Are my guests at a better volume relative to me? So, story time, Skeptic, go.
Yes. Okay. So, it was definitely an experience. On one hand, so as a person, he's all right sometimes. He makes a lot of dad jokes, and that's kind of his thing. When he's making his arguments and his presentation, he's kind of a dick, and I don't say that lightly, but he very much is preaching intolerance deliberately.
Right.
In the sense of, he's like, no, we're not supposed to have our religion and keep it to ourselves. We're supposed to tell people because we're right and we have the truth. And if you don't do that, then you're a coward and you don't love people. So he was just very much more angry than I expected. And he was surprisingly a lot of different types of bigotry, like sexist.
I know that you have...
You name it besides racism, and he's probably that.
I know that you have interactions in real life with people of Christianity and stuff like that, and they're trying to drag you back to the faith and stuff. I respect you for that, man. Interactions in real life's better than all of this. But, like, did you actively, like, when you found out that this was happening, you know, there's probably a bus trip. It's not with a space. It's no space, stupid Muggle philosophy. Did you actively find out that this was happening or go to it, or did you go and meet your friends and he happened to be there, or what was the circumstances in the build up to it?
Yeah, so I've been going to a local Christian debate group. They're more college based, but they are open to like non-students being there.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just been going there recently just to, I feel like, add a contrary voice to the group, because I feel like those kinds of groups can be very insulated and not really understand an alternative perspective. Like the first meeting I had when I went there, they were talking about atheist beliefs, and it was not generally correct.
Sorry, you just cut out. It sounded like atheistic.
Advertising.
It sounded like atheistic abuse. You sort of cut out in and out. Was that what you were saying?
I was saying more straw manning of atheist positions. And so that was my opportunity to really speak up and say, you know, I'm not speaking for every atheist, but this is usually not what we believe. So basically, I'd been going to that group for a couple of weeks, and they had mentioned that Frank Turek was coming by on November 3rd, It was like a free speech thing.
Free's always good.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, it was an event that was free. I didn't mean like free speech, like free speech, but like it was an event that
Free
was free.
event,
Anyone
yeah.
could go, different things like that. And so I was like, I've seen so much of him on YouTube and on the internet. His Twitter account is, dare I say, fucking crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I have to meet this man. I can't
Oh, I have so much fun over there on his Twitter account.
I can't not. It's not that far from where I actually live. I could just walk over. I can't not, you know? And it was definitely, like I said, it was definitely an experience. Most of the people there, the overwhelming majority, were on his side on basically everything he said.
That's
which
what
I thought was a little odd.
Was he treated with awe?
Was he treated with what?
Awe. Like, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he is
very much
yeah.
elevated in a certain sense by everyone in the room. And
So they see him and don't think he's silly.
no. When I tell you everything he said, every joke he made, everything landed, and basically everyone loved it. The overwhelming majority. Some of the things I was very surprised because it was blatantly like bad.
Did you find him charismatic? I mean, we only see the video clips. Did you find him charismatic
In
when you
person?
were
Yeah.
speaking to people?
Yeah, in person, I think he can be charismatic to an average person that's not really familiar.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, how do I say this? It's like the tricky salesman thing, where if you know and you meet the salesman, they're not that impressive. But if you don't know, they have a way of talking that is more convincing and more appealing. And that's what I believe it was. Most of the people there were already Christians and they were already his type of Christians. So of course, they very much leaned into everything he said.
Well, see, that's sort of the idea of the title I was aiming for. I was trying to find the phrase, trying to find the word or whatever, you know. Like, what is the point of, and we've got an apologist. We've got one of the...
Oh, Richard's not an apologist.
Oh, he is, just for one. Well, no, he's more of a zealot. All right. Hi, Richard.
Peace and respect, you all.
Thank you for joining. Are you all worked up and we can't see you because you're from work?
I haven't done my hair. Yeah.
We'll
I've
have
been
to do
trying
with
to
that.
stir people up with my, not really trying to stir them up, but I started identifying as a Guyanist.
No, well, what I was going to ask was, you got a chance to talk to him, obviously, before he was on Stage Skeptic. Yes, we small interaction or whatever, or was it not so much one-on-one, just him walking around the room?
Yeah.
Walking around.
So I had the opportunity to meet him one-on-one before and after his speech.
Yep.
Because I bought his, and I say this with heavy air quotes, award-winning book, I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist.
Yeah.
He was doing signatures afterwards. And yeah, just generally, like, he's not a mean person. It's just once you find out what he believes and where he stands on things, where you're like, you're kind of bad.
Did you find that his personality, him as a person, all right, I'm not going to ask you to do a psychological breakdown or whatever, but you can tell when people are enjoying the attention, and you can tell when people are uncomfortable with the attention, you know, and sort of like, is he lapping it up and enjoying it? You know, I don't want to say narcissistic, but a man in charge enjoying the power.
Yeah, I would definitely say that applies to him. There is actually, I've used this clip in my videos before. There's a scene in the show Cheers where the politician's going around not really saying anything, but everyone believes that the politician is on their side.
Mm-hmm.
That was basically that exchange where I'm like, he didn't even say anything, and everyone's like, oh, wow, that was so good. That was so amazing. That was so great. And I do give it to him. He is a very good speaker. He is very good at public speaking, and he very much knows how to make a presentation. I do have to give him credit for that.
From meeting him and talking to him before and after, and then seeing him on stage, I know you've talked about being a good speaker and the fact that he puts these things across and all, but did you see a slip in personality, as in going from, you know, I don't want to say a religious leader or a cult leader, but someone enjoying the attention, to then slipping into, this is what I need to do to get that attention. You can be charismatic and make jokes and stuff. Then you go on stage and continue to be charismatic and make jokes. Or did he go to stage and then slip into business mode? Like, I'm trying to ask without, I know you can't answer this, but
Yeah.
does he have two personalities, so to speak? Is he aware that this is what he's doing more so than believes in it? He's enjoying the money, he's enjoying the attention. Not to say that he doesn't care about God and doesn't think that it works, but this is what I need to do to get this, and this is what he's really after. It's not the religion and the God that's important, it's the attention.
I don't know for sure, based at least in my conversations that I had with him in those separate contexts. He's relatively consistent in both spaces where he very much says he's trying to put the focus on God and says he's trying to put his focus on the arguments and not having faith and all that different stuff. So it's the only difference I notice is when it's a one-on-one conversation, it's much more free form. So when he's giving his speeches, he has a script and he can stick to his script and he can follow his script and he can't be interrupted. You can't ask questions in the midst of it. Whereas if you hang out afterwards and you ask him questions, then you can sort of, I don't want to say catch him off guard, but then you can really get him to think. Whereas he's so used to being in that scripted speech mode, he's not used to hearing something back. He's not used to hearing a criticism. It's just, this is what I say, and everyone claps and everyone enjoys it. So to get a response that's not that is very much I don't want, again, I'm not trying to say like it completely catches him off guard, but it's definitely, you see a slightly different side of him when he has to actually explain and defend the things he says in his speech.
Did you, like, in the time that you got to talk to him, was it long enough for you to give him a poke? Not the way that Bree's smiling about and thinking about, a different type of poke.
Kind of. I actually had a very interesting question that I was going to ask him, but I didn't get to fully like flesh it out, basically. And my question basically was, he has the idea that if this thing created time, then it must be timeless. If this thing created space, it must be spaceless. So my question was, did it create existence? Because if it created existence, does that then mean it must have not existed? And I didn't get a direct answer from him on that, but there were other people that were like, that he was with, who tried to answer the question as best they could. He was signing autographs and stuff, so I didn't get his like full undivided attention.
Yeah. Did your debate group hear you ask that, and will they be all giving you jibes about it?
I've asked them that question beforehand. I told them that was the question I was going to ask him, and so they've tried to answer it as best they could, but I still found that their answer didn't make sense to me personally, because I asked the question and they said God is existence, and I don't know what that means or what that's supposed to mean, so that didn't really give me a clear, concrete answer. But to be clear, that was their response. That wasn't his response. I didn't get his response.
Moving not off topic altogether, but what do you think, like the audience, you were what, one of maybe 3 atheists in the room, would you say?
Yeah, I know there was at least one other one, because I like kidnapped them and made them go, because I was suffering and I was like, you have to come, I'm suffering, we have to suffer together, that's what friendship is.
Yeah. Links out there for anyone who would like to join. Not afraid. Do keep it on topic. Rules are in the description. So yeah, you and maybe 2 others. One that you can guarantee is atheist. So what was the point of Frank Turek being there? What is the point of an apologist? You know, the title name is Apologists. Do they help or hinder? They help reinforce people's beliefs who already believe. They have simple questions to a toxic. The average person probably questions 1 or 2 things. Nobody normal does this shit weekly, you know. So they are there to... Oh, Spartan. The link is also there. I would love it if Spartan could join. I'd love a Christian or someone of a different point of view to come in. So the idea of an apologist, are they there to convert people? Or, you know, are they there to reinforce the idea? Like, what was his goal being there? Did he slam atheists, or did he reinforce their beliefs, you know, or reinforce Christianity? What approach did he take?
He kind of took both approaches. He very much has a, how do I say this? Pretty much every argument surrounding the existence of God is pretty much, he's brought it up. If you can think of it, he's brought it up. So whether it's the moral argument or different arguments like that, if it's, you know, shaming atheists, or if it's focusing on Christians, he kind of went all over the place with that. I still think, especially after I haven't finished reading his book, but as I'm reading his book, I think his purpose is more to reaffirm people that already believe and not to convert people who don't, even though he says it is to convert people as well. His conclusions and the things he says don't make sense if you're not familiar with the subject, if you're not already a Christian. So he will see things like, well, obviously there's no conflict between, you know, faith and reason. There's no conflict between faith and having proof of something, because proof is what substantiates our faith that we already have, and our faith is what saves us. But if I'm new to the subject and I don't already believe that, that doesn't do me any good, especially if I don't know what salvation is or different things of that nature. So I think he is most effective at reassuring Christians who already believe, but they don't feel like they have a good reason to believe. I think that's his main target audience, and those are the people who by and large go to see him and praise him and things like that. There are some people...
target audience of any apologist though, right?
I don't know for other apologists, so I'm trying not to generalize, but that could be the case. I'm just speaking on my experience with him in particular, and that, in my opinion, seemed to be his primary goal, especially since he was much more interested in telling people this is what atheists believe rather than showing. He would just say, well, atheists believe this and atheists believe that, and this is bad, and that's it. And there wasn't really a fleshed out, how do I say? There wasn't a deeply accurate portrayal of any of his opponent's positions, regardless of whether it was atheists or just people of other religions in general. He just sort of generalized and started speaking about their positions without actually demonstrating that these are the positions they have. So,
just if I can confirm, I know the real Jill won't show their face, but can you talk so I know it's you and you're not going to porn bomb me?
It is, yeah, it's I. It is I.
That's him.
That's him. We all know Jill. Yeah. I'm very afraid of Jill. So Jill, fuck me, what is going on with my camera? The night keeps cutting out. As someone I would consider to be an internet apologist, what would you say is your goals when you have these conversations? Like, don't say you're coming in here to shout liberals and all that sort of shit. And I appreciate your icon letting us all know how crazy you are. But what do you join these hangouts for? What is your goal as an internet apologist rather than a mainstream like Frank Turk?
Well, let's ask him if he identifies himself as an apologist first. Do you consider yourself an apologist, Jill?
What's wrong with the letter Q?
Don't diverge the topic. I said I'd let you in if you stayed on topic. I was having a wee jibe at you. That's what friends do, Jill. Don't shy away from the friendship. We all love you, Jill. Go on ahead. Answer the question.
To your comment about, you said it was crazy that I had.
I was making a QAnon joke. We all know what you're trying to do. Don't fight the attention. Answer the question.
Well, I could even say I feel comfortable saying what's wrong with QAnon.
Okay.
But Christians are following 2 Corinthians 10. The goal of apologetics is to destroy your argument.
So that would be your goal. Your goal wouldn't be, say, as we just discussed with Skeptic.
That's one of the goals.
Okay. Well, Skeptic, as we were talking about, what he got from Frank was that he is there to reinforce Christian beliefs and basically make Christians feel better about themselves. You would discern yourself different from him because you feel that you are actively out there to convert people, yes?
Actively, he is too. If he's a Christian, he's also following 2 Corinthians 10.
Right, well, none of us is able to speak for anyone else, and Skeptic, from what he's seen and what he witnessed in the show, was more to confirm and make Christians feel better about themselves. So we can't say about his mind and you can't say his goals, but we can infer. But I'm asking you directly. You would discern yourself different from that point of view because you actively are going out to change people's minds.
No, I don't argue to change people's minds. That wasn't my claim. 2 Corinthians says that we're arguing to destroy your argument. That's it. Period.
Okay, so it's not even to convert.
Do you feel that you've saved more souls converting people or reaffirming other Christians that their beliefs are sound?
We demolish arguments.
Okay.
The Bible doesn't say we save people. Christ is the one who saves.
Yeah, and then the fruit of that being that people come to Christ, right?
You're a little low, Bree.
Christ is the one who does the save or saves or does the saving. We just destroy your argument.
So that is your entire goal. Your entire goal is to destroy an argument. Now, is that an exact translation in the King James, or are you going to the Greek or whatever? Does it actually quote and say them words, we are sent here to destroy your argument?
2 Corinthians chapter 10.
Now, again, I ask, you're just repeating it back to me. I'm going to ask you, is that an English translation from, say, the King James, or does the original Greek and people agree that it says destroy? Is that the word that it uses?
Some translations say demolish.
Okay, but that's all I'm asking. It is, the idea is being put across to get rid of it. I can't share a screen, so I do apologize, demolish. So you want to destroy the arguments for what reason? And don't say 2 Corinthians and make it, are you trying to make fools out of us? Are you trying to point out that we are stupid and wrong? Like, what is the goal of this? To help us join Christianity? Someone's got an echo.
Well, if that's the will of the Father, then yeah. But sometimes you might have a stumbling block, what the Bible calls a stumbling block in the way of Christ, so to say. These texts are not really describing God being stomped by anything anyone does. But we would say that those are stumbling blocks that people might have because of how they were raised and what they were taught about the Bible.
If I could just interrupt, Jill, could you say your verse again, please?
Destroy.
Could you say what verse it was again? We have another Christian in the chat would like to just check that. 2 Corinthians what?
2 Corinthians chapter 10. I'm not sure what verse. But these are falsehoods that we're tearing down. So we're not tearing down anything that's good.
So you would consider... Hold on.
Jesus Christ did the same thing.
Hold on. Okay, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to stay on topic. So you as an internet apologetic are using 2 Corinthians chapter 10, whatever verse it is, to destroy arguments. And then you're going to leave the results afterwards to God.
Yeah, and every pretension or idea that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, Paul goes on to say.
So I just wanted to confirm that. Yes, thank you again for saying that.
Yeah.
So there is no argument that anyone could put forth to you that you would see as a good argument, as a good thing, if it goes against what you would consider to be God.
Well, I'm sorry.
I think the noise is actually coming from Jill. Is there a TV in the background, Jill?
Yeah, what was that? I'm sorry, I didn't get your question.
The question was, as you stated it, you are here to destroy arguments. There is no argument that you would take that goes against God that could be shown to be good. Because they go against God, they are bad. You are here to destroy that.
Just because they go against God? No.
Spartan has checked your 2 Corinthians. It says, take every thought captive to Christ. Is that what you're referring to? You said it literally says destroy or demolish.
Yeah, some translations say tear down, some say demolish. Sure.
If you're going to use it, you should probably, I'm not going to give shit to Richard because he's got an old man brain, but yeah, you should remember the verse if you're going to use it, Joe.
Yeah, I did. We demolished.
That's not the topic
arguments.
of 2 Corinthians 10. It's just not the topic.
Okay.
Hi, Arctic. Hi, Nerdy.
We
Hi,
can-
everybody
we
in
can
the
look
chat,
at
and
topics.
Darg and Michael and all. Thank you all for coming and watching this, you know. Appreciate you all coming. So what would you discern as you don't think there's any good argument that could be put to you?
What do you mean by good argument? If it's a good argument, it's a good argument. It still can be defeated.
If that argument
Still
says
like
that there's
God.
right, so you come with the presupposition that God exists, so you're going to just say that and stand by that and all the rest of it. So would you consider an argument defeated because you laugh and say God won, or are you actually open to the conversation? Fuck this camera tonight, right? The lead's wonky.
Yeah, it depends on what the topic you're speaking about. I've had discussions with atheists on several topics, and they were always proven wrong. It was always some preconceived notion they had about the Bible that they were taught in error. And
The specific question, though, about whether God exists, like that's one specific question.
Yeah, what about the question of God existence?
Can you prove it?
What do you mean by prove?
You see, now that I think is a really, like, I'm not going to stand up for Jill or take his side or anything like that there, but from a long time of having conversations with Richard and shit like that over proof and all the rest of it, proof comes down to your own and this and personal testimony, and I feel coming out of just straight out of the bat and asking a Christian, prove God to me or I don't take you serious, as a bad approach.
Depends on your definition of God. It does. I mean, if your
I
definition
agree.
of God is strictly biblical and it's the 7 spirits of God, we all know those things exist.
Right, well, I will hand the floor back to Trusty Ape we're going Trusty Ape. Yeah, hand it back to Trusty Ape.
I just jumped in. Hello, y'all. Hopefully,
Hi.
okay.
Hi, welcome.
I was just getting my headphones set up because we had a little bit of an echo. It's easier this way.
It actually turned out the noise in the background was Jill, but thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, well, that happens. Jill usually is the noise in the background, right?
No, let's not dig at people's character and all. He's still a person.
Huh? Me and Jill have a rapport, though.
Skeptic, have you any questions that you would like to pose, meeting an internet apologists and seeing their definitions over what you got from Frank?
Yes, but far too many to ask in a reasonable amount of time.
We have
So-
all night, man. Start with the question number 1 and we'll go from there.
Just the first
Okay.
thing that pops into your mind.
Well, the first thing that pops in my mind is, what is God?
Well, it depends on who you ask.
We're asking Jill.
If-
We're going to ask Jill.
Oh,
Me and
Jill?
you. Yeah,
Oh,
well,
boy.
you're allowed to give reference points, but you get fucking like 3 hours a week to talk. Give Jill like 2 minutes, you know?
Not with these guys.
I don't need 2 minutes. God is your creator. Therefore, you should be your principal object of faith.
I'm sorry, you glitched out for a second. Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, God is your creator. Therefore, he should be your principal object of faith and practice.
Now, by creator, do you mean as in the human race creator? Or would you consider, like, I created my daughter. I don't know if you have kids. I know Bree has kids. You know, we created our children. So should they spend their life and, you know, I understand respect and go clean your room and give me a hand with the chores, but they don't need to lie down in fucking prostration, you know, and worship us. We're all human. So what do you mean by created? Are you going back that far, or elaborate a wee bit for us, Jill?
Right. God is the creator of all things, not just your daughter or your son.
I only have a daughter so far, but This is a very vague statement for me.
Anyone's daughter or son. Right.
But that's our spaceship behind me. We spent a wee while today building a spaceship. Very good fun.
Oh, that's cute.
Thank fuck for duct tape. But right, so because he created us, you believe then that because of creation, because this is all, then he is deserving of that.
Right. There's also some of God's character or characteristics that are revealed to us through scripture or divine revelation. God is just, he's loving, he's truthful, he's holy.
I don't like using the Bible, right? And that's the gospel truth. I've had this row with Richard last week to the point where me and him were fucking and blind at each other. I was not having fun.
Well, if you're going to engage with Jill, you have to understand that the Bible is his worldview, and he's going to have to use that as a reference point for everything
But
he's
I'm going
saying.
to tell him, I'm going to straight up give the man my bias and let him know where I'm coming from. So I will let him speak and talk, but I want to give him. You're just cutting me off because I do it to you all the time. It's like feisty. I love it. All right. Anyway, no, I don't like using the Bible because there is, I don't know. What's that meme number? 30,000 different denominations of Christianity out there. Everyone takes Christianity different. Richard and you, I guarantee, would not fucking agree on what the Bible says, you know. So using the Bible, I would much hear your personal testimony. I'd much hear your opinion. I'd much rather hear what you think your goal is. So when I ask the question, you believe that God is deserving of worship because he created us. Don't say because we read the Bible, there's other things in it. The Bible is only a couple of thousand years old. Even in yours, humans were around for 6. So there's 4,000 years, twice as long Christians existed without the Bible. It's not even important to them. You happy enough with my
I
bias?
did want to jump in after Jill was finished speaking.
Okay, so Jill, I asked the question again, and then we will go to skeptic. You believe that God is deserving of your worship, and we should all dedicate our lives to him on the fact that he created us all.
And also the characteristics of God revealed in the Bible, such as his loving, just acts, his truthfulness. So the Bible is 100% correct 100% of the time. His compassion, his mercy, his grace, first and foremost. And his judging of sin, also offering of forgiveness. So we can't understand God apart from his works. And that's delineated in Scripture, only in Scripture.
So
I think the question you want to deposit is, why do we believe the Bible is divine from God and other books are not? Maybe or other gods are not or not real. Right?
Also, how you reconcile so many indiscrepancies. I mean, like the age of the earth, like anything that occurs in the Old Testament. Like, how do you reconcile all of that?
What about the age of the earth in the Old Testament? It's
According
not there.
to the Bible, the earth is like 6,000 or 7,000 years old, and we know that is false.
I don't think it's according to the Bible. I don't think according to the Bible the earth is 6,000 or 7,000 years old.
According to that tracking of the genealogies in
Yes,
in the
some
Bible,
guy
how
did
they-
a tracking. I don't think the Bible states a year. That's why a guy had to figure it out. So I don't think the Bible states. They just give a genealogy of things from the start. And some guy worked it out.
Well, it also states like the number of days in creation, which is like partially attributed to that.
The genealogies in Scripture are symmetrical. They're not sequential. They were never intended to be, even though someone did come along later
Yeah.
and suggest that they can determine a chronology. It was never intended to be one. Genealogies are different. There are missing generations. We can see that because Matthew includes generations that are not found in Genesis. There are 10 generations before the flood and 10 after the flood. Did you notice that in the genealogies in Genesis? 10
So
before.
after the flood up till Christ.
Lots of sevens and threes.
Right.
It's all very numerological. But that
Marty,
doesn't
you have the
really mean
link.
anything.
Yeah, that's done purposely. That's not designed to give you a chronology. Unless
Is
you believe
David the middle
exactly
point?
10. I'm not sure. I have to look. You can look it up. The 10 genealogies before the flood and the 10 after.
So you believe literal flood though, right? You're a biblical literalist, as far as I know.
Well, there was a flood, I believe. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you and Richard believes the flood is a reference to the population of the people, so he has a different interpretation of that. So, what words are figurative and what's literal there? So that's why I have to clarify with you, because different people have different points of view on that.
Yeah.
So, when you present your apologetics, is it mostly to atheists or to other denominations of Christianity? Rather religious theist.
Anyone who is setting up itself against the knowledge of God, the God of the Bible, we demolish those arguments. Don't let them stand.
So even if it's like a false Christian doctrine that you, or a Christian doctrine that you, from your point of view, believe is false, you will take a stand against that and try to tear down that argument. And the ultimate goal of this practice is not to win people to Jesus.
Well, that's ultimately up to Christ, but we can say that we are at least eliminating some of those excuses they might have when they stand before our Lord on Judgment Day. They will be standing butt naked because they won't have any excuses. The Bible contradicts itself. That won't be an excuse because you'll destroy that argument.
What do you call that guy at the start?
Day.
St. Michael. St. Michael. Is St. Michael a perv then? A bit of a kinky bastard. Right?
I didn't. What's that?
Sounds a bit like
Everybody arrives at the gates naked. Is it St. Michael at the gates or who's the guy at the gates? He's
St.
a bit
Peter.
of a St. Peter. Yeah, St. Peter's a bit of a perv. Okay.
No, the atheist will be standing naked. He won't
You're
have
not
any.
going to be naked with me.
So my job is to leave you without any excuses. Christ is not going to listen to you anyway. But you won't be able to say, "Oh, the Bible promoted slavery. That's why I didn't believe." You won't be able to say that.
Well, you see now that. Go on ahead, Bree.
Yeah,
I was
it's
gonna say,
just
but
like being
is it
like
naked? You're saying
under arrest.
spiritually naked, right?
Take your pick. Take your pick about what you may believe about the Bible, what you might have been taught. You won't be able to say that
At
after
the end of the
engaging
day,
with
if you're under an authoritarian figure, you have no say. It doesn't matter. Like your logic doesn't matter, right? But that's just an authority.
Yeah, we're gonna all. Jill wants to see you naked with St. Peter. It's gonna be hot.
the bare nakedness of your own anti-supernaturalism, your own personal version.
News
Whatever
unit,
that
we
might
are
be.
all naked right now underneath of our clothing. Every single one of us.
Really? I'm
Oh, yeah.
I'm just about naked. I'm in my swimsuit still.
Yeah, I was going to say the news.
Not much left to
I've
go.
always wanted to be part of a nudist colony.
The news unit, you are not getting on camera because I'll happily have the conversation.
No,
just
I'm not
like-
gonna get. I won't. I won't. You know that.
Oh no. Like you're not getting on stream. I'd happily hear your voice and, what
Right,
happened
but
there.
I mean, I wouldn't do that to your channel.
I'd appreciate that.
But I mean,
We have.
I'm
happen
all right
in the past.
looking though. I'm a halfway decent looking guy.
Well, maybe you should come on camera then.
Who
So
did we-
anyway, are the Christians giving you a hard time there, MathPig?
No, I'm enjoying the conversations, and I actually think this is the most productive conversation that Jill and me have
They want to
had.
get naked at the judgment with
Is that
Peter
your
and the early
news
gates?
unit? I figured that was you. Oh, boy.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm a terrible
Mowdy
guy,
in the
yeah.
house.
I'm bad.
now we
Yeah,
got
he's-
Mowdy. Thank
You
you
are
for
something
joining,
else.
Mowdy. Appreciate you joining. I am sure that you know Jill. I don't know if you know the news unit.
Who is Jill?
Oh, you don't know Jill. Oh, Jill, your reputation does not precede you. You must feel very small.
If you're a liberal, your worst nightmare.
Oh, out of the fucking... Knocked it out of the
What
park.
the you know why? What's so bad about liberals when they like liberty? and
Okay, we're
freedom?
not talking
I think
about
that's a great
liberals and
thing.
stuff. We're happy to have a conversation and have a few jokes in between. But if we can stay on
I mean,
topic,
conservatives. What
if
good
we
are
can
conservatives
stay,
if they
don't
have
speak
liberty?
over the
It's
top
just
of me.
this catchphrase. There's no
This
sense in
is
poking
just
at it.
hold
You're
on,
not gonna
Bree.
get
If I
around
can
it.
clarify, Bree, if I can clarify, the news unit, do not speak over me whenever it's my channel. Okay, I'll just move you from the stream. It's as simple as that. It's in the rules. It's in the description. You join. You wait for your turn to speak. You don't overtalk people. You don't use certain words. You know what they are. Simple as that. 3 rules. Very basic. So, do wait for me to finish when I'm speaking. Don't take it off topic and start shouting about liberals and stuff. We're talking apologetics. We have an internet apologist here. We have someone who met an apologist in real life. We had someone who talked to Frank Turek. If you want to ask questions and that, wonderful. I'd like to ask Maudy's opinion on what he would discern an apologist to be, and is there any differences that he would know of between an internet apologist and someone in real life? Maudy, the floor is yours. Fuck this camera.
All.
Pardon?
So we just got done having dinner. Family just got vaxxed yesterday. Everyone except me. So everyone's arm hurts. They don't feel good. So I thought that the best thing to do tonight was to come home, bake some biscuits and bread, and have soup and or chili. So that's what we just got done eating. And now I'm full. That said, I would consider an apologist, if I understand the term correctly, is somebody who defends the position of Christianity in this instance. The difference between someone who does it online versus somebody who does it in real life, to my ear or to my eye, is the people online are a little bit more performative and aren't as genuinely interested in their apologetics being persuasive in as much as the apologists that I've met in real life, who are willing to sit down and have a conversation based on understanding. And within that conversation, they have a toolkit of apologetics that they're going to use in their persuasive way. That's not as available online. And so that's why I think the apologists online are a little bit more performative. They're trying to appeal to the people who are watching as compared to have an understanding of the person they're talking to. That's my experience. I'm happy to be shown wrong about that. I would love to think that all apologists are interested in understanding. That's not my observation.
Jill is the example that we're using tonight. The Mr. Big Red Q is the example that we're using tonight as an internet apologist. And you said, Jill, 2 Corinthians chapter 10. And
I'm not an internet apologist, but
we're using you as the example tonight. But you said that they were going by 2 Corinthians chapter 10, whatever verse it is. And according to you, it says
verse
destroy.
5.
Verse 5.
Can we just let's not identify Jill as an internet apologist if he doesn't feel that he is one. What would you identify yourself as, Jill?
Dr. Reverend
The
Deacon.
doctor. Deacon. I
Bishop.
can go with deacon. I don't know about doctor because that requires certain credentials.
No, I can identify whatever I want to identify as.
Oh, I just want to
Well,
say,
that's
hold on.
with education that you don't have.
Sammy on the bed.
2022.
It's getting
I love
hotter.
Frank Turek, by the way. Love Frank
Hey,
Turek.
Sammy.
Sammy, have you been moisturizing or something? Or what did you do? You look like 10 years. I know what it is. You've been sleeping with a younger woman, haven't you? You've been sleeping with a younger woman. That's what's been taking the years off.
Not necessarily women.
Don't make Jill uncomfortable.
But younger, yes. I'm just keen to get to heaven now.
What would you say,
All right.
Go party naked.
No,
MathPig, what would you say Frank Turek's job was as an apologist? What would you say his goal was?
I would put Frank Turek in the same sort of group as in I never knew of these people until I became an atheist. These were people that atheists in the community would put up as examples on their pedestals and go, look at these fucking fools. All right. And that's my first interaction of meeting these people. I'm sure that I could throw my camera through a fucking wall right now. I'm sure that if I had a conversation with these people in real life, like Marty would say, I would have a better opinion of these people. I've met and talked in real life to young earth creationists and things like that. And people who would agree one wholeheartedly with yourself, Jill, I have a better conversation with them. They seem more open. That's the differences between the internet and stuff. But I think the fact that he gets paid for it, the fact that he makes his living out of it, his job out of it, you know, he is using this as a living. This is his living. His job when he goes to conference halls is to reinforce. Stop taking attention away from me, Sally. His job is to make the people who go there feel better about themselves. All right. That's his audience. You know, there's 3 or 4 people in that audience that possibly are atheist, maybe 10 that are unsure, and the rest of them are there to be made feel better about themselves and confirmed on the small questions that they have so that they can be put right on it. It's like, oh, I don't know about the trees. Oh, well, the trees are God, so they don't have to think about moral status or free will or any of the rest of it. They don't go down that route because they've been stopped by Frank Turek at the small questions. He's give them answers.
Small questions. Oh, I see.
Yes, well, like, look at the trees. Who made the trees? You know, you can say God, you don't ask any further. Where does your morality come from? Slightly harder question to discern out.
Ah, okay. So you think that the goal is to answer the small questions?
To stop people from going further, yes. To make Christians feel better about themselves, yes.
So by asking the small questions, that won't necessarily lead to them asking more questions.
Well, like, you know, the general idea of a child, you know, I'm going to treat it like a 5-year-old. You know, you teach my wee girl how to take a wheel apart, she's going to want to take the car apart. You know, that's the idea and the attention and the questioning that I would hope that a lot of people would have and put forth to their kids. You know, here's something, you figure it out, you want to figure out more. You figure out more and you figure out more. And before you know it, you've went down a fucking rabbit hole. So by stopping it at the start, if I go one question, I don't end up down that rabbit hole. I am literally going to throw this camera out through the wall.
And that's actually another specific tactic that people like Frank do, is it is their role to infantilize their audience. So they dumb everything down so much and answer questions like they are speaking to children too. And it's what you do to your child is you aim to answer it in a way that the questions don't continue. And that's what Frank does.
Well, we would say that part of
people's brains need to hear so that they don't ask the next question.
We would say that Bart Ehrman does that to his teenagers in his freshman studies class. In fact, he even admits to such, that his goal is to convert them or deconvert them to atheism. So you have people on your side doing the same thing.
Yeah, well, everybody's actively trying to, you know, say their piece. That's why we're on the internet.
Are we now talking about the morality of promoting or persuading for the purposes of an agenda? I don't think anyone's saying that apologetics is bad. So the argument that there's people on your side doing it too, that doesn't go anywhere. Yeah, there are people who promote most activist positions. The question is, are they persuasive?
It depends on who you ask. I mean, obviously, I wasn't persuaded by any of Bart's trickery. I was able to uncover it. Some aren't able to.
Are people persuaded by your trickery?
Well, I've never. I guess you can demonstrate one. If you could demonstrate trickery, then and then that someone was thereby convinced of that.
Well, okay. Well, what then? If those are your standards, then what has Bart Ehrman done to qualify as trickery? Using your own definition.
He writes 2 sets of books. He writes one set of book for his atheist fans, the low information crowd or demographic, and then he writes more scholarly works. So in his books that he writes for the atheist on the internet, he'll say something like there were more errors in the Bible than words. But on a scholarly level, in actual debates with scholars like Dr. James White, he openly admitted that those errors were spelling errors, minor spelling errors or grammar. So
to be clear,
scholarly, that's I don't know if you want to call it a lie by omission, but that's clearly two sets or two levels of information, two types of information that's scholarly and doesn't obfuscate on that level, and then the information that he puts out on the internet for views, I guess. And book
So
sales,
how is
no
that-
money like book money.
Make the link of how that is trickery for me.
Well, to say that there are more errors in your body than there are cells, right? It's someone that would suggest such or say such is not telling you the fact that these are minor errors that are insignificant and have no bearing on the functionality of your body systems. That is deceptive to tell someone that. Someone that is not aware of that might think that they have cancer or something is wrong with them because someone said there's more errors in their body than there are cells. So he said in one of his books, there are more errors, and you see this repeated on atheist memes. I can't believe you're acting as though you don't recognize this meme. There are more errors in the Bible than there are words.
I've never seen this meme. I don't know what you're.
Oh, has anyone in here heard this meme before?
I don't know.
Be honest.
I haven't.
Be
No,
honest.
I honestly have not heard this, but I do agree with I don't think that.
But I acknowledge that the meme exists. That's
yes. I don't think that
not a
bringing
hill
up
worth dying on.
atheists.
I believe you that this meme exists.
Yeah, I don't think.
But I'm trying to wrap my head around. Hold on, Matt.
No, I'll shut up. Go.
I only started. I have some follow-up questions. So it seems to me, if I'm trying to understand your definition of Bart Ehrman's trickery, is that in technical environments, he's technical. And in non-technical environments, he's more casual. And that's trickery.
Well, it's sophistry, if anything. It's
How so?
sensationalism. It's sensational to have a title, "Errors in the Bible," or misquoting Jesus. I think is the title of the book. Actually,
I agree. It's sensational.
It's
I agree with that.
sensationalism, right? That's what sensationalism is. That's sophistry, and
That's
it's
trickery.
yes, sophistry is a form of trickery. Is a form of deception. Yes.
So
Yes, look up
I have a story. I have a very quick story that might give you a little bit of perspective, at least the way that I understand it. As somebody who works in a lab, I know a lot of people who write technical papers. And some of those people, in addition to writing technical papers, they write books, non-technical books, about the same topic. But they can't go into the detail that they go into in their technical journals, because those are meant for peers. For people who aren't peers, the books that they write, it is a language that is not incorrect, but it is certainly not as technical as the technical books or the technical talks that they give. That's what it sounds like you're explaining, except you're putting a top spin of malignancy on it.
Right. Yeah, we can clearly see that he's writing for an audience. That's clear. I mean, if you don't see it, then I'm sorry, but anyone looking at this objectively can clearly see selling books and sensation.
Could I have a moment, just less than 1 minute?
That doesn't
please?
address anything I just said, though.
If I could have just 1 minute with both of you guys. Christopher, Mowdy, please meet Jesus is Lord. Jesus is Lord will never, ever, ever concede. You could spend 3 hours telling him the difference between popular science and peer-reviewed science. He will not concede your point.
I see.
These aren't these are books that he's selling on
Well,
the
so
market.
much for the objective observer, huh?
I have to say though, Richard, if I can, I think this is the most productive conversation I have heard from Jill in at least a year and a half. He is approaching it. He's listening. He's made comments. All he does is Robbie's afraid of him and this, that, and the other. Never was. Link was there. He's joined and we're having a genuine conversation. So yes, he is right in the 99% of
I'm enjoying
interactions.
myself.
Yeah, he's right in the 99% of it. But
He just completely dismissed Mowdy's question.
He did do that, but I still stand by my point that this is the most productive that we've. Dismissing it is still better than going, "You're a dick, damn liberal," you know.
I thought I answered the question. If I didn't, then yeah, please give me the opportunity to. I thought I answered it clearly.
You want to try rephrasing the question and proposing it to him again, Chris?
Well, I was just, I didn't really have a question. I was just pointing out how I understood the same circumstance that he saw, right? And you were, from my perspective, it made sense because technical papers are technical, books for the public are non-technical. And the things that are said in non-technical books sometimes are sensational. Sometimes people are more sensational than others to sell their books. I think that's a point that we can agree on. And it seems that, as I mentioned before, you're putting a top spin of malignancy on this, where maybe the looser, more casual language in the books, not being technical, to you seems like trickery because it is fooling people who don't know the details into not looking for the details that are in the technical books. As I'm trying to understand your point, does that sound about right?
Right. These are lies by omission. I mean, if you're familiar with CNN and MSNBC, they do the same exact thing. Joe Biden does it.
Let's stick with Bert Ehrman, if you don't mind.
Right. Yeah, it's a lie by omission. You knew the entire time you were writing about errors in the Bible with the sensational titles, you knew the entire time that these errors were insignificant. They were just copyist errors that people made slip of their hand, didn't cross a T, didn't dot an I here. You knew that when you made this title, yet you, in your 340-page book or whatever, you didn't manage to say, even in a footnote, that, hey, these errors are minor grammatical and spelling errors. You couldn't put a footnote. Come on. Now, I mean, if you don't see it, that's fine. We just disagree. You don't see it. I see it clearly.
I haven't read those books. I mean, obviously you have an axe to grind with Bert Ehrman. Like these arguments, if I were a believer, these books by Bert Ehrman wouldn't bother me.
Christianity has an axe to grind with any sort of deception that tends to lean or contend against the faith. Yes.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. 2 Corinthians chapter 10.
Verse 5, apparently.
Yeah, verse 5.
That's it, Corinthians again. Is that one of your favorite books?
Yeah, Paul's letter to the Corinth church is both of them are one of my favorite books. Yeah.
Interesting choice.
And everybody's run out of things to say. Sammy, would you have anything to say from the out?
Plenty more
I can
things
give
to say.
I can give you
I would
another.
give Mowdy the floor.
If I can get another example, I can show you. This isn't just an isolated incident.
I'm not necessarily. I don't know enough about Bert Ehrman to go into deep dives about, and I'm also not a Bert Ehrman fanboy. Like I'm not interested in defending him. As far as I'm concerned, he can be a jerk.
Yeah.
He's wrong a lot.
Like Sam Harris and all the rest of them, you know, we don't have. I don't think these people deserve the. Yeah.
Well, all that being said, I would say that Bart Ehrman, therefore, when you're comparing him to a Christian apologist like Frank Turek, one is being honest in his behavior and deportment, and the other is not.
See, and that is a point that can be argued. I know that there are atheist activists, of which I am not. There are atheist activists that think that Frank Turek bends the truth towards his agenda. And so according to your own criteria, that sounds pretty malicious.
Yeah, well, you'd have to show me an example of bending the truth in the case of Frank Turek, as I did.
Like
here.
to fallacy. I don't want to. So what we're doing is we're like saying, okay, so Christian apologists do this, and then you're saying, well, atheist apologists do this. Well, and I use that term because that's the implication. Atheist apologists do that too, but as far as being dishonest as an apologist, I think we can all agree that any level of dishonesty about your position or the evidence for your position is wrong. regardless
Exactly.
of what your
So
position is. Yeah.
I think that it's normalizing the idea that regardless of who has a point that needs to be articulated, the people who articulate it, there are better versions of them and less better versions. There are some versions that exaggerate things and are deceptive, and there are some people who are a little loose but not deceptive, right? There's always this push and pull, but for me, the topic of the conversation is how persuasive, what is a metric by which we can measure whether or not these communicators are getting their message across in a way that is moving the needle of the opinion or belief of the person or audience they're talking to. And from that perspective, I find most of the being atheist, but not an activist, I see a lot of the atheist activists as coming from a more honest place, although I have my critiques of atheist apologetics, please don't get me wrong. But I see more of it from the Christian side. Again, that is my bias. Now, online, I think everything's on steroids, and it's the octagon. So, I don't expect many honest interlocutors online. But like I said, that's why I see it as more performative of the people who do it online. They don't seem sincere. And I don't know enough about you, Jill. I mean, I know your opinions about Bert Ehrman, but
Jill's my favorite and first
willing
troll.
to have a honest, genuine discussion about beliefs in an attempt to persuade or understand. Am I reading you wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to people on my channel one-on-one, and they were convinced of, things like hang-ups, theological hang-ups, like the God of the Bible is evil, and I was able to go in and show them that that wasn't the case. These were just atheist tropes that they swallowed whole cloth. So yeah, that happens on a number of occasions. Does that sway someone from atheism to Christianity? Perhaps not. In some water, some plant, but God is the one that does that conversion, if you will.
I see. And is that one of the reasons why you're online, is to help engage in these persuasive conversations, or to be a defender of your faith?
Right. We are to wherever we are on our jobs. Wherever we are ambassadors in the earth, the scripture says.
So,
right.
Were you always a Christian, or have you converted to Christianity?
I don't. My theology, my soteriology, it's called, or how you're saved, doesn't hold to me doing anything. So it was all Christ and His work in me. When did this happen? I couldn't say.
Okay. Were the arguments that you use currently, were they part of what persuaded you in Christ's beginning of His walk with you?
Some of the arguments that I use now help to support my faith, but I already believed that there was the supernatural. I believed in the supernatural.
That's it.
Yeah.
So you already had a belief in the supernatural, so that wasn't a leap for you to make.
Right. It was just a matter of which one of these claims corresponds to reality. And after investigating pretty much virtually all of them, Christianity is the most convincing.
You researched all supernatural claims? That is an audacious statement.
Well, it wasn't one that I made. Virtually all.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
virtually, I mean.
Yeah, I even used virtually and almost in the same sentence, which is redundant. But you're still somehow missing.
When you say virtually all, how many do you think that is?
The major religions, I'd say the so-called Abrahamic faith. Islam is not an Abrahamic faith, by the way. Neither is Judaism. But yeah, most of the major religions.
Hang on. Wait a minute. Literally, Judaism is literally Abrahamic faith. It's literally Abraham himself.
Is this Cliff Jumper?
No, it's Laura, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, if you say so.
Well, let's not
here
get
to have
lost in the details and tangents and try and stay on topic and stuff. But you say no, she says yes. You know.
Guys, the idea here is to have fun with Jill because you're never going to get a serious answer out of him.
You're loving the digs at Jill tonight. I'm going to keep standing up for
No,
a wee bit.
I'm telling the truth. It's not a dig.
I'm not
It's what he
trying to
does.
have fun with Jill, right? The truth. Do you know why? Do you know why he's here tonight? Because I'm going to show to the whole community that, as what people think of Jill, motherfucker's capable of a conversation. It's just if you feed the fire shit, they're going to smell bad. If you have an actual conversation, it's possible.
That's true. That's fair.
Can we get a date on the return of the aliens, Richard?
Now you just ruined everything, you fucking asshole. Come on.
There's never been a date to the best of my knowledge.
No dates.
So
Not to the best of my knowledge, no.
when I first got involved in this community, the pre-sup was like everybody was talking about pre-sup. And I think that is the most dishonest. Now, I'm talking about the Saiten Brudenkate one version. And he himself has said it's just designed to shut atheist mouths. And the reason why it's dishonest is because none of the people that pushed this thing came to the conclusion that God exists by presupposing it. They already believed in the Christian God, and they're just using it as a sort of like gotcha kind of thing. Well, if you can't, if you can't answer all the questions of the universe, life, the universe, and everything ever, therefore mine's true because I presupposed it. And the problem with presupposing things is you can believe anything you like. You can presuppose anything, and I came up with an atheist presup, and it's not an actual atheist, no God argument. It's mirroring the Christian presup to illustrate how it's just a terrible argument. If you give me a couple of seconds, I'll read it out because I think it's quite good. Bob, there it is. Okay, so this is my atheist presup. Now remember, this is a reductio ad absurdum argument here. Okay, he's just pointing out how ridiculous the thing is. So, a long time ago, in another universe, a being called Bob decided to create a universe because he just wanted to see what transpired. In Bob's universe, the laws of physics work differently, so something can come from nothing, and that's how Bob's species came about. Over time, that species advanced to a point where they had the technological advancement to be able to create planets and create universes. So Bob created this universe, life and everything, including the laws of logic. That Yahweh thing, yeah, that's just an ancient myth created by a tribe who were unable to answer the big questions. Where do we come from? What caused the universe? What's the purpose in life? And they just made something up. So no God required. If you're a Christian, you'll say, yeah, but you just made that up. Well, how could you possibly know that without stealing from my worldview? You can't even use the laws of logic without stealing from my worldview. Everything you say
Just keep it short, Laura. Keep it short. No rambling. That is rule number 2.
No. This is it. It's coming to the end. So everything you say, do, and think of is contingent on Bob. This is where presupposing things leads. A Bob-esque creator of the universe has as much validity in a presuppositional sense than Yahweh. The only difference is how many people believe in it. And that just becomes a fallacy in itself, argumentum ad populum. So that's it. It's pretty simple, really. Sure, you can presuppose things, but it doesn't make it so. And no one came to that conclusion by presupposing God. It's the cart before the horse problem, isn't it? As like, I came to conclude the Christian God exists because I presupposed it. Well, wait, how did you get to that conclusion? Well, I read the Bible. Well, wait a minute. If you read the Bible, you didn't presuppose it, did you?
Yeah.
Does that make sense, everybody? What do you think, Rear Admiral Mouty?
I'm not a fan of the precept. I wouldn't necessarily have, given my counter example to say just, precept is a horror show.
Yeah, I agree.
And towards bringing it back to the point of the discussion, which is what is persuasive. You brought up the point that Psi 10, who was the spearhead, at least online, for this precept argument, readily admitted that he wasn't looking to have an honest discussion. He was looking to shut atheists' mouth. And before he came along, the popular online scarecrow, straw man, I guess, was Kent Hovind with the evidentialist apologetics. And that's just, flat out demonstrably incorrect. So, in apologetics, the field of apologetics, the ones that have been evidential as demonstrated by the Kent Hovinds of the world, that came to the internet to die, and then it was taken over by the precept. Except now Kent Hovind is still trying to have conversations about the stuff that he's been saying for the past 20, 30 years that's been debunked over and over and over again. But I don't want to hold all apologists.
Who do you think is
Kent
the?
Hovind.
Who do you think, Marty? Discovering Ancient with Pat Lara. Thank you very much for subscribing. Out of all the apologists that you've seen, and we're talking real life, we're talking William Lane Craig, Frank Turek, Ken Ham, Ray Comfort, Talk Banana Man, all of them. Who do you? I don't want to say and use the word respect, but who do you think does the job of an apologist the best?
Back in the day, there was a guy by the name of Dustin Sears. And way back in the day, he used to do debates with Psi 10, but then, he distanced himself. And he was the most genuine, gave a crap about you, whether or not you were, a person of faith or not. Of course, he promoted Christianity, and, if things were going wrong, he would reach out. He was a very good friend. And, he was also Christian, and he had his apologetics down, and he could handle those situations, but he knew when to turn it off. And I guess that's that to me boosted his merit.
Brilliant. Well, if you have spanners, man, in the chat, if there's any links on YouTube or anything about that, feel free to share it. I like the fact that you mentioned someone I did not know.
I actually have a nice interview with him.
I'm kind of chuckling because when you said it was like back in the day, God, it makes me feel so old.
To whoever said that, just apologist was all about shutting someone's mouth. Why can't you honestly shut someone's mouth? You seem to set up a dichotomy, which I think is
I don't know
false.
what you mean. Could you explain the impression you got from the dichotomy?
I think I know it, but I think I get it.
Okay. Yeah, it seems as though you were suggesting you cannot shut someone up and be honest at the same time.
It's not necessarily that. It's more about there is a process to honest discussion where when you ask somebody a question that's meant to be taken at face value, you do take it at face value. And Psi 10's apologetic violated that over and over again. And considering that it is a bait and switch, it is a dishonest, bad faith acting way of trying to get your point across. On top of that, admitting that you just want to shut mouths, that puts you in a very different category than people who want to potentially shut your mouth within a conversation where you're both open to understanding each other's positions, which I think is the preference.
Yeah, I mean, when I've seen Cited Brinkate working, and he would say the same thing over and over again. It's like he wasn't even listening to what was being asked or said to him, and it was like, how do you know that? 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 And it's like, it was like talking to to a wall. It was just, there was no feedback. It was just, like I say, a one-way conversation, And you know, the precept argument that he was using is simply down to if I'm the apologist and I'm precepting,
Hey, Michael,
and
it's your birthday.
I'm pointing my finger at you, saying, "How can you define existence and anything at all?" Well, you can't be, asking me those horrible questions about what about these contradictions in the Bible? What about this and that and the other? Problem of evil, etc. That's all it was there for. It wasn't there as an honest, quest for knowledge or truth or any of those things.
So I think that Laura's points combined with mine kind of sum up our frustration with hearing from an apologist that they just want to shut atheists' mouth when observably that is their technique.
Yeah, I can honestly do precept, and then you can ask me for an evidential type of apologetic, and I can decline because I'm using precept. I don't think that's dishonest. I think that is just two methods of approaches in apologetics, and you're conflating the two as if one is.
Oh no, that's a misunderstanding. No, you've completely misinterpreted and mischaracterized.
Well, no, I was just responding to what.
If you're responding to what you just paraphrased as your understanding of what we said, you're wrong.
Well, the contradictions were brought up by I'm not sure who that was who was just speaking.
Laura.
That's an evidentialist approach. To answer that question, it would be an evidentialist type of approach to answering that question, basically.
Well,
So
let's get back to,
honest.
hold on, this is a tangent. Let's get back to what we were talking about. A moment ago, you asked why it would be bad to shut mouths. Why would it be bad for an apologist to shut mouths? Laura and I gave you an answer as to why we thought that particular example was bad. I'm still waiting for you to address that because your answer was this misinterpretation of we are not saying evidentialists should use precept arguments or any of that. I think that those are two completely different camps, to be clear.
Yeah.
When we heard this one precept person make that claim, we gave our reason why we thought that was bad because you asked us. So now that you've asked us and heard our answer, now that it's clarified that we think evidentialist and precept are completely different, do you understand why we thought that was bad? And do you have any further questions?
Well, the response that I gave was to the one who said that the questions about contradictions are basically ignored in these conversations, therefore dishonest. So that's what my response was. That okay. Well, has this individual when this individual did not answer your questions about the contradictions, did you feel as though that person was being dishonest at that point in the conversation, Laura?
Well, the difficulty is you've basically conflated two different things here. The people who were using precept were using it to pretend that, to deflect away from answering questions about what the Bible says or whatever. If I ask, why do you believe?
Okay, I got it. I got you.
Hang on. Let me just finish. If I ask, why do you believe what you believe, and you come up with the Bible, and it's like, okay, well, let's explore that, and then we can have a discussion about that. But if you're going to use the precept, and say, why do you believe, and it's like, oh well, I presupposed it. You're giving up on the conversation. The preceptor is giving up on the conversation. Then they're not interested in honest discussion.
Right.
All they want to do is deflect and say, no. How can you even ask that question?
Well, you presuppose that my answer to you was that they're just using presuppositional apologetics instead of answering you in an evidentialist form. You interpret that as being dishonest. I'm telling you that they're not being dishonest. That's just the approach that they chose to take. But you don't like that approach. I understand that, but it's not dishonest.
They were literally being.
I don't see any value in picking apart Monday morning quarterbacking a conversation that you weren't in, that's being told to you secondhand. I'm much more interested, instead of these little details of conversations you haven't been in, talking about things that you and I are currently talking about in this conversation. I'm going to go back to the thing I mentioned a moment ago. You asked why we thought it was bad to have somebody say in their apologetics that they wanted to shut atheists' mouths. We explained to you, and I will sum it for you so that you have a very specific target for your answer. On top of the observable bad faith behaviors with which they engaged in their apologetic, they additionally said they were doing it to shut atheists' mouths. The reason why that's bad is because the expectation is asking questions, expecting them to be taken on face value, are expected to be taken on face value, and his technique violated that.
I haven't seen a demonstration of how.
Please wait, please wait, please wait. Let him
Very
finish.
good. That's a good question. I'm happy to answer that very specific question. So the main technique that Psi 10 would use, and I'm not saying that this is what all apologists use, but one of his clones, which were called Psi clones at the time, that was a clever little wordplay, right? Is they would perpetually ask, how do you know that? What is your benchmark? How do you know that? And every answer that you would give, thinking that they're asking how I know it, let me go through my understanding of epistemology, but they weren't asking to get to that question. They were taking advantage of rules of polite conversation, where when somebody asks you a question, you're expecting that they're interested in the answer, and they weren't. That is an example of a bad faith approach of apologetics.
That's a misunderstanding of what the approach is. When a precept says to you, "How do you know?" They're not talking about your knowledge or what you've learned or experienced, or your epistemology, as you would say.
Oh, I understand.
Let me finish. They're referring to the foundational belief that you have, what justifies these beliefs, not just the knowledge of what you believe.
Indeed.
That's what presupposition is. That's why it destroys the atheist argument, because you have no reason to believe what you believe.
Oh, that's so cute.
But that's why reason why I don't use it, because I like to torture my victims with evidentialism. So, but some people like to kill you with one shot. That's the precept argument.
It's funny though, isn't it? Because the first conversation we had was because you were using precept.
If I can, there is other people that have joined. We have Gur, we have Michael. I'd like to ignore Gur, say thanks for joining. It's good to have you on screen. Ignore them. Then go to Michael first and get their opinion, and then Gur's. So
even though I was here
don't
first.
make me fucking kick you. Arr. Michael, I don't know how much you've been listening because you doing the in real life stuff with the exam papers and all. Also, have you been moisturizing too? Everybody's looking very young today. You know, you're looking. Of course. Yeah, you know.
Shea butter all the time.
Looking well, looking well. Have you been listening? Have you had the opportunity to listen?
I've been listening off and on. It's almost impossible for me to multitask. Yeah, I don't really have any input at this point. I'm just kind of listening to where the
Okay, well, fuck you then. Back to Gar. No, sorry, go on ahead.
No, I was just going to say I'm interested in y'all are calling it precept.
Turn your gain up just a touch, man. Turn your gain up just a touch.
Yeah. Is that better?
You got a blue Yeti. There's a knob in the back.
Okay. Check.
There you go.
Check.
Far better.
Good. Yeah, I was just I'm interested in this precept argument. I haven't really encountered it a whole lot, and I'm just curious as to what the reasoning is behind that, and what the assumptions that you think atheists make about the universe are. But yeah, Gur, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I didn't realize I was.
I think that was directed at Jill, but Jill didn't catch on or didn't respond. Were you asking a question, Michael, or just making a statement?
Oh, he said Gur. He said Gur.
I was passing it over to Gur because they were next. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I just tuned in. I'm sorry, I don't know what's being said, so I'll just be quiet until
So,
I feel the need to pipe in.
Jill, you were listening to what Michael said. Have you anything to respond to? Leo has just popped in, stole the room for Jay. So JG, if JG does come in, I would appreciate if someone could possibly, I'd like to have another Christian on. We'll talk about it when it happens, if it does. But Leo, you'll not be on camera. I can't hold 10 people on camera. Don't even care. Hi, thanks for joining.
Wait, what was that about the camera thing?
I am a perfectionist and I have hacked StreamYards, so it's a 3x3 square. So I can hold 10 people, but I can't show video of the 10th person because...
Oh, okay, no, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, we can hear you and everyone else on the panel can see you, just the audience can't.
But they can't see my icon or whatever, I'm assuming, in the
that's it.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
They can only see 6 people currently.
Oh, for fuck's sake, who have I forgetting? I'm forgetting Michael's beautiful face.
Hey, Piggy, quick request. Would you mind putting the names up in the boxes? Because I don't know who half the people here are.
I would, because I'd have to turn the hack off and ruin my production and all the rest of it.
Okay.
Yeah. I love not having the names. I deliberately go out of my way to turn the names off because it bothers me. And seeing it's my channel and it's all about me, that's,
Fair enough.
So, Jill, you listened to what Michael said. Have you any retort? Have you any compliment or comments?
Yeah, sorry. Let me change my avatar. This was my Halloween avatar. I wore this to scare liberals. So let me change this really quickly. I wore this
as yourself.
I don't think you actually scared liberals. All you did, as I stated at the start of the stream, is tell people I'd be crazy.
I wore a pair of horns too.
Oh, I've got that icon too. Did you steal that off me? I have that icon. Please address what Michael said. Please address what Michael said. I'm sure he could do another wee quick retort if you need to.
Yeah, Michael, can you refresh me on what was said? I'm sorry. Just give me the Reader's Digest version, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just not horribly familiar with apologetics in general, and I'm not super familiar with the presupposition. You made a claim that atheists don't have a foundation or basis for their understanding of the universe. I was just asking for you to elaborate on that.
Oh no, when we were speaking about the presuppositional apologetics, and I think it was, from what I understand, the idea was deposited that deflecting from evidentialism during these conversations or these observable bad faith behaviors, not taking atheists at face value when the question is asked, why do you believe what you believe? Or I can't remember if that's how you stated it, but I think that there is a confusion between belief in or knowledge of morality and justification for morality. So when the precept is saying why, he is asking for your foundational existence of morality or moral ontology.
Difficulty is they generally aren't interested in it anyway.
So Gers just volunteered to be kicked.
That's taken to be dishonest. That's taken to be a dishonest, on the behalf of the apologists. And I was just explaining that's exactly what presuppositional apologetics is.
Did you just say it was dishonest?
Well, it's often, you were saying that approach is dishonest, or someone was saying that that's dishonest, and I'm telling you that that's what it is. So if it is just dishonest in its core, then it doesn't really matter who.
You're missing the most important piece, right? It's not that it's dishonest because it's asking a question that from your perspective, people can't answer. It's not honest because the actual question that's being asked isn't asked, right? It's not like, I think a reasonable person can say that there's a difference between asking a question like this. Hey, I'm gonna ask you a question about how you know things. And what I really wanna know is, I wanna get at the foundation of how you know what you know. Don't tell me what you think you know. I want to know about this for these reasons. Now, then asking the question. There's a difference between that and then just asking, how do you know that? And then getting an answer and asking, how do you know that? And then getting an answer and then going, how do you know that? Now, whether you personally don't see one as bad or one as good, we can admit, and the reasonable people on the panel and listening and watching, that those are two different ways, two different strategies of moving forward a conversation. From the perspective of the atheists, that seems dishonest, because you could, with an interlocutor that you respected and trusted, treat them on the level and not try to deceive or be Socratic or take a leveraged position, and meet the person where they are and have an understanding conversation.
You mean like the two sets of books that Bart Ehrman writes? He could just write the same set of books.
You're not talking to Bart Ehrman. You're talking to me right now, brother.
Well, I just see a double standard here. So when the theist does it, it's
But
okay.
hold on a second.
Or when
As somebody who hasn't read the books that you're seeing the double standard of, how much of a double standard is it really?
Well, no, I
Like, just
explained to
because
you
it's
what-
available, I understand. Just
I
because
explained
it's
to you-
available to you.
Still dodging the question like he always does.
Hold on.
I
Let,
explained
let,
to you what Bart Ehrman was doing. You said you were perfectly fine with that. So even without
I
reading,
don't
the
remember.
books.
I don't remember saying that.
Oh,
You're
okay.
mischaracterizing again.
So yeah, I think Cy does a great job of being very, very specific when it comes to what he means by knowledge.
Yeah, that's
And,
called being
maybe
opaque.
maybe the first question he may ask.
What is
and
it
then-
that he means by knowledge?
Well, the existence of morality.
Well, but that's not what you said. You said that Cy is very clear with respect to what it is that he means by knowledge. So tell me what it is he means by knowledge, since he's so clear about it.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is that when he first asks the question,
so you don't know
how
what
do
he
you
means
know?
by knowledge.
When he first asks the question, how do you know?
Yeah, I didn't.
And then he'll follow it up with what he means by knowledge. Justification for your knowledge or morality, not just the moral knowledge itself or epistemology.
I think the difficulty you've got here, Jill,
I've seen him explain this several times. I don't.
I'm sorry. What? So how is it that Cy defines knowledge?
Well, what I'm saying is that those who use pre-sub, just like Cy,
I didn't think that you knew, so I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, most people who use this argument are very clear, at least in my experience, what they are referring to when they say knowledge. They just don't keep saying, "How do you know? How do you know? How do you know?" Like Stewie with in the movie or in the show Family Guy, when he kept saying "mommy" 50 times. So they actually explain what they mean. I don't see that. Right. So they're not being dishonest. At first, when you first encounter the conversation, it may seem that way, but I've never seen any apologists, pre-sub apologists, just leave it there and not explain what they mean by
The pre-sub argument to this day hasn't been settled. Like nobody from a non-pre-sub background has been able to have a discussion, as I understand, with a pre-subber where anyone has gotten past the first line of the syllogism. I have yet to see a conversation where each side was open to each other's understanding to get through the premises to work through the syllogism. I've yet to see that. So saying that it's, pre-sub apologists have just been open and transparent about this stuff is a joke. And that you haven't seen it in the old school Google Plus days.
Yes,
when
I've been around
in
I was
the
there,
cyclones like Colin Pearson.
if I can
like
just
currently Darth Dawkins.
if
is
I can
carrying the
interject one
tradition.
second, Sammy.
I was around there.
If I can interject one second, Sammy, are you even there? Sammy's not even there. Sammy, I'm going to kick you from. Oh no, yeah. You're being very quiet. I'd like to get.
Don't kick Sammy. You kick Sammy. I'm going.
Who?
to.
Okay.
I'll jump out.
No, I just wanted to get JG, and I'd like to keep the panel more balanced. I don't want just one Christian being attacked. So someone has left. Yes, certainty, JG. Feel free now. You can get in. There is room. Gur's left. So, yes. Thank you, Gur.
Let you know, though, I can jump out. 'cause I'm
Oh,
not-
no, you don't have to now. Gur did the samurai thing. Gur fell on the sword. You're prettier than Gur. It's fine. You stay. It's just because you weren't there. If you hadn't answered, I was going to kick you, and now we're dragging it out. So, Mowdy and Jill, please go back.
So I've got I can't.
You don't
remember,
sound like
it's
Mowdy.
Such a long time ago now. Melty, I'm sure you'll be able to remind me.
What's this?
The Seiten Bruden Kate precept started with something along the lines of, "Is there anything you can be certain of and that you couldn't be wrong?" or something of that to that.
That was one of the questions that they throw in the script. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a script. That's the important thing to remember. It's a script.
Well, it's a magic crossword puzzle. You need to fit very specific letters and very specific rows and columns in order for it to work. And when you do something outside of it, they just go back to the script.
Yeah.
The magic
How do
crossword
you know-
puzzle only
How
works
do you know that?
if you
Bring it
believe in
back to the
magic.
script. Yeah.
But yes, that was one of the lines. But the thing that we were talking about right before the most recent intermission, back in the Google Plus days, where Cy 10 and his Cy clones, Colin Pearson and all of those people, and the current Darth Dawkins version of it, they're pretty much stalling the conversation from getting any further than the first couple of premises because of they'll go down rabbit holes of certainty and absolute certainty, and like nobody can hear each other. That like, okay, what's the pre-sup argument is an internal argument. As soon as you are saying that your argument is worse than mine, you're making an external argument. Like these just the basic rules of how to put forth an argument and stick with it and move forward with it, those get lost. And it mostly gets lost because there comes a point, and I've observed this, where the presup makes a distinction between secular philosophy and presup philosophy. And that's where everything breaks down. Because if you're not even working with the same rules, you're not playing the same game.
What's funny about that is the vast majority of theistic philosophers would reject the presuppositional approach.
Yeah. And we're not even talking about the was it Kant? That was the first presup. I can't remember now.
No, it wasn't Kant. Kant is an evidentialist.
Who is Kant?
We're
I
talking
think you're
about
talking
Kent
about Kent
Hovind.
Hovind. That's what I'm at.
His son,
Hovind?
His son did
No.
did apologetics for a while. In fact, I think his son brought Cy 10 into popularity. What was Kent's son's name? That I can't remember.
Eric
Hovind.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, Kent doesn't run Kent's not smart enough to run presup.
No, Kent.
Which is saying a lot about both Kent and presup.
Hang on, not Kent. Kant.
Who?
The
Oh,
philosophy.
Kant. Like
Kant.
Immanuel Kant. Yeah, no, presuppositionalism I don't think existed back then. At least as presuppositional apologetics is largely understood today, is gonna relate to like works by people like Cornelius Van Til and others.
Van Til.
There's a couple of other names that I can't think of off the top of my head, but that's where.
If I can, Leo, I already shouted at other people for over talking me on my fucking channel. I cut you off too. JG is coming.
I'm not allowed to finish?
You are, if you'd let me make a statement. When you're finished, if you don't ramble on forever and a day, I'd like to hear JG's opinion on what we've been talking about.
If I can just interrupt one thing.
No!
No, when you said Van Til, that's who I was thinking of. That was it.
Okay, Leo, please finish. Then I would like to give the floor
I
to
was
Jay.
finished.
Oh, so you were. So you whinged for no reason. Thank you. Jay.
What I was saying is that I just didn't want to be interrupted while I was still in the process of finishing.
But I'm an asshole and this is my channel and you ramble forever and a day. So, JG, it is your turn. Would you like to comment on what we've been talking about?
Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, I'm just thinking we're all presuppositionalists, right? We all have presuppositions. We all are aware of that, right?
Yes, but only some of us. Oh, no, I was talking. Yes, we all have presuppositions. Some of us don't ask us to justify them, though. So, back to you, Jay.
Does anyone here think they don't have presuppositions?
Not to sound like a stereotypical philosopher, but are you talking about like epistemological?
You are very low, Michael. I don't know. Make love to the mic. Get a
Whatever
little
you're
closer.
using to get where you just got, you got to presuppose something, right?
Would you consider would you reject the idea of like properly basic beliefs, like my experience of reality?
Well, I mean, it just sounds like you're putting a label on a presupposition, a different label, perhaps.
I'm just asking what you mean by.
Well,
would that-
I mean,
would
is this
that
the first
count?
time you've thought that you might have a presupposition or have presuppositions?
I make assumptions about a lot of things, but I don't
You
know
don't-
if I make a whole lot of assumptions about some things.
Well, I mean, there are the properly basic beliefs part. You know, let's just make a simple one. You know, I believe the universe that I am living in is a real one. That is a simple presupposition, or that I'm real, you're real, the technology we're using to talk to each other is real, those sorts of things. You know, those are presuppositions.
I would say that the I is the presupposition in what you just said.
Yes, and of course,
So
not only that, if it wasn't true, and we're just some computer program, then it would still be true because we're using the universe that exists within the constraints of that program or whatever you like. So even if we're just one of us is an AI program, and every other thing, every other one of us is just something that's probing that program for what answers and what conclusions can be drawn by them. A digital reality, shall we say? Then the approach that we use would still be the correct one. We'd still be using the same approach to life. We'd still be using the same rules.
So when you say I, you're presupposing a singularity there, that you're not a computer program, right?
Yes, but even if we were, the story would still be the same. The conclusions would still be the same. If you don't know,
I'm not sure how you got there.
I'm not sure where we're at in the discussion or what the point is.
Well, the opening
This
point is
fell
that we
apart
all have
quickly.
presuppositions. I guess some people here aren't
Sure.
sure if they have presuppositions or not. Or
No,
maybe they
nobody
I don't think
answered your
anybody denied
question.
that.
You asked your question. I don't think anybody answered. You asked, does anyone
We
here?
all presuppose that reality is real, right? That should be the bottom line. Start there, move forward.
starts pretty circular, right?
No?
What's
reality
that?
is real.
No.
Reality is real. I mean, what does that mean?
Well, of course, that would just be analytically true. That's just tautological.
yeah.
The term real is in the word reality. It's like saying a bachelor is an
Yeah.
unmarried man. You're just kind of repeating the same thing when you say that. All you're really saying is that an unmarried man is an unmarried man, because what it means to be a bachelor is to be unmarried and to be a man.
Yeah, that's another distinction I was going to bring up
But
is that
point though, JJ, yes, we all have presuppositions.
Yeah, I agree.
You're too
I
far
agree.
from your mic, Sammy. You need to echo
So
your
I would say if we can all agree that we have presuppositions, that's going to be our starting point. So it makes sense in any discussion that we would start there. That's the way I look at it. We would try to define.
It depends on the
what those are.
discussion.
Well, I just don't
Well, I
understand
mean-
why a conversation with a precept can't start from, okay, we're going to agree that the reality that we exist in is a reality, that it is real, exactly, like it's a tautology, it's real, it exists. Start from there and move forward. What's the point of a conversation where we can, how do you know you're not a brain of that? I mean, let's exist in the existence and then the reality that we're walking in now and presuppose that, right?
Somebody just pointed out that you have a tautology there, right? You're not really saying anything when you say reality is real, at least.
Well, that's not what I said.
I
I didn't say you're not saying anything. I said it was
Well, you're saying
tautological.
something. Yeah, you're saying something, but I'm not sure. You still want to define and clarify what you mean when you say reality is real. That's a big claim, actually.
The
Well, I would
existence
define
that
what
we
it means to
share
be real.
together is what I'm talking about. I thought I was pretty clear about that.
Well, there's still the we.
Marty,
in
check
there,
Discord.
But
Yeah, that me
I'm
and
just
you,
saying.
the independent minds can affirm to one another and can independently verify the existence of. That's reality. If I see, this is the problem. If I have to sit here and explain to you what reality is, where are we even starting from?
Well, you're attempting to explain what you think reality is, and that's where we would start. And I might disagree with what I think reality
Right.
is.
And how do you explain to someone who rejects reality whole cloth? How do I have a conversation with you if you reject the existence of reality?
Okay, I'm going to
just
interject.
reality is
Hold
real.
on.
Again, the tautology that Leo pointed out is not pointing out the flaw in my position. It's the flaw in yours.
Well, it wasn't a flaw.
I mean, you asking me, well, yeah, I know.
Bree, you're getting very emotional. Bree,
You
you're
are
getting...
asking for a tautology explanation. You want me to explain why reality is real. What is real? The existence that we exist in. I don't understand the question that you're asking. If you can't accept that we share an existence together, as independent minds, and it creates a we, and the world that we exist in is a reality, I don't know how to talk to it. I don't know where to.
That's fine. You can start from there too. You could say all that stuff, and I could say, all right, I could try to unpack.
Okay,
that.
if I can
agree or disagree with that, that's fine.
Okay.
I would still say that you're presupposing the I or the we, the singularity of I, and what that actually entails.
What does any of that mean?
Right. Okay, everybody's talking and all the rest of it, and the only person I want to fucking ask the opinion of this back and forth is Michael. All right, Michael, this is your field of expertise. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, all right? But come on, give us your opinion. You're making some weird faces down in the corner. You are disagreeing with what JG is saying to a point where your face is twitching. You have things that you want to say.
It's not that I'm disagreeing with what Jay is saying. I just I'm not sure what the point is, because that sounds rude, and I'm trying to have a
right. Well, can we all find a precept that we would agree on? Okay,
well,
let's make it really vague, very simple. Michael, would you like to put forth a presupposition that everybody in the panel could agree to?
Well, I'd just like to ask a question, which is like, in order, I guess, are you like taking some sort of like global skepticism position, that there's no such thing as knowledge and that there's no basis for rational discussion, or I live in my world, you live in your world, and there's no way for us to have any sort of basis for communication? Is that what's...
No, I think it's more like what MathPig's question was. I think that's a good question. What he just asked you.
Ironically, Michael, you might as well have just described Twitter.
Yeah. What was your question again, MathPig?
My question was, would you have a presupposition that everyone on the panel, regardless of our worldviews, used very vaguely, could agree upon?
I mean, I'm not sure, and again, I could be completely misunderstanding what's meant by presupposition, but I'm not sure how. So you have two basic categories of reasoning, right? This is really basic stuff: inductive versus deductive. Deductive truths are true by definition, right? And so you wouldn't need any presupposition.
You're using bigger words than my question implies.
That's right. It is inductive versus deductive. And 420 mentioned something in the chat there.
After Moody.
He's kind of got the idea. This is a conversation in reverse. That's the point.
Moody after JG, please.
So you're a global skeptic about inductive reasoning? Is that what we're saying?
No. I'm saying this type of conversation, we want to get to the starting point of what we presuppose and what we think exists and why, and what we can know and what we do know. It's going to be an inductive reasoning conversation. That's where we would want to start in order to make an agreement about how we're going to explore reality and how we're going to have a conversation about
Would you accept induction as a valid form of reasoning?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess I don't understand where the hang up is then.
Well, we have to have a starting point.
We're not there yet. You have to keep going with the conversation to get there.
Okay.
Right.
Marty, would you like to add to that? As I said,
the reason I think people get confused with presuppositions is because they don't think about their own presuppositions. And when they're challenged to, it gets complicated. Because it's just like people want to go to Descartes, like I think, therefore I am. But they don't even really pick that apart. The I is presupposed. There's causality within that statement. Therefore, I am. Just people haven't even dissected that.
Oh, Carlton's here. Welcome, Carlton.
I kind of approach it from
No, I did ask if Marty could, but he's unmuted and everything. I'd like to give the floor to Marty. I'm going to be a dick, Laura. I do apologise. Marty, I'd like you to say something. You were commenting in the private chat and all, so I'd like you to jump in.
Sure. I think it's a difficult question to answer because most people don't think about it. What do we presuppose? Oh man, like that's not a casual topic of conversation. From a psychological perspective, you're tapping a few things, right? We presuppose that we are an individual. We presuppose that we live in an environment where there are other individuals like us, but our theory of mind allows us to know that their minds think different things than our minds. And these are all presuppositions in that we don't decide to think them as we navigate the world. They are interwoven into the fabric of our reality. And that reality is based on induction. It is an automatic and unconscious process. And that's how it works from a psychological perspective. From a philosophical perspective, it becomes very difficult to answer because philosophically, you can dissect things that don't matter psychologically, like beliefs and thoughts. And presuppositions being a foundation, this argument, as I understand it, really comes down to the idea that from an internal critique, Christians have a foundation for their logic because they presuppose God, and God is logical and moral and knows everything. And knowing somebody who knows everything facilitates your certainty in the knowledge because he can provide it in such a way that it can't be wrong. From an internal critique, that's a strength of the presup argument, in a way that when you try to internally critique atheists, you're trying to show the weakness of the lack of foundation that they have because they don't presuppose the existence of God. And without that presupposition, they don't have a foundation for their knowledge, philosophically, in the magic crossword puzzle.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you're saying. I think where I would push back is the part where you said you explained the psychological idea of presuppositionals, and then you went into the philosophy not mattering or not having any weight to the psychological methodology. And I would say it does. I think when you go back and analyze it philosophically, you can actually change and alter the way your psychology works or where you start from. So I would say there's value in doing that, although it can be very difficult.
Just to try and steelman you or get you to steelman yourself, Marty, didn't you actually say the opposite? You said the psychology doesn't affect the philosophy. Not that the philosophy doesn't affect the psychology.
I'm not sure what I said, and I will be the first to admit that I could have been inarticulate. What my point was is that looking at things like thoughts and beliefs philosophically are distinct in a way that psychologically they are the same thing. Your brain treats beliefs and thoughts as the same thing. Whereas philosophically, there is a distinction in arguments that could be made based on once you've made that distinction, what path you go down. I think that's cute. I think that can be valuable. But when it comes to like big questions about whether you believe in God or not, I don't think they're very valuable. But then again, I do have a bias. I'm researched in psychology. I can point to empirical evidence that supports the theories that I find charming.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. You had placed a value judgment when you said it matters or doesn't matter, and then you just restated it in a way that you openly said that you had a bias. So, so the value that you put within your explanation is where I would that's the point of observation I would start to make, and now I would try to trace that back to the presupposition of that as well. So this is where it gets to be a very intricate conversation, and how we can know what we know and why we decide to move forward, whether philosophically or psychologically or a combination. I don't think they're actually inseparable necessarily. I think that they work together. So
I think that they can, but with the presup argument, when we're, keeping everything in context, like, not talking about how psychology and philosophy exist in a vacuum, as it pertains to big questions like the existence of God. There are I can provide arguments for why I find the psychological explanations having more evidence and weight, and why things that track onto where the rubber hits the road, which is the reality that we all share, has more value than magic crossword puzzles that exist in an abstract theoretical world where you have to fit within the crossword puzzle in order for the point to make sense.
yeah, I guess I don't understand what you mean by this crossword puzzle.
The precept script.
So we all have presuppositions, but you're saying presuppositional apologetics have a script, but your presuppositions are unscripted.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
You have to remember, presuppositionalism does not refer to the having of presuppositions. It refers to a particular theistic apologetic methodology. And that methodology is very highly scripted. As anybody with a properly operating brainstem who's seen even just one debate from Darth Dawkins or Seitan Bruggencage, or like people like Eli Ayala or whatever his name is, Matt Slick, knows that if you provide a response, regardless of how honest it is with respect to what you genuinely believe, that falls outside of this crossword puzzle, as Mowdy is putting it, which I think is a good way to put it, they will just keep hammering you with questions until you give a response that falls within it. And if you don't, if anybody doubts this, just go watch the debate that Shannon Q had with Darth Dawkins on Modern Day Debate, because I have never in the 8 years that I've known Darth Dawkins seen anybody lay him open like that so quickly and so brilliantly.
He will still rant rave if you bring up her name.
Yeah, because she completely embarrassed him, and it was oh god.
She's a psychologist, so she started breaking open the steps he was taking and the methodology he was using.
Not to get too far off topic, but the one thing I wanted to say that just absolutely blew me away that she did was like, oh, that's weird. That's really interesting the way you say that. Did you know that? Like you're trying to suppose that what you're saying is some fact that I don't know, when I just disagree with what you're saying. So it's really interesting how you're doing that, because that's what Darth does. Yeah. He'll take something that's just a mere claim and he'll shroud it in a particular linguistic where he'll say, well, did you know that such and such and this and that and the other? Did you know that? When that's not like what he's doing when he says that is he's trying to make it seem like it's a fact and you were just ignorant of it. When in reality, it's not a fact at all. It's just a thing he's claiming, and he's linguistically shrouding it as if it is a fact that you just didn't know. You got to be careful about people like Darth.
Yeah, and it all relies on the dishonesty, that you need to kettle them into a specific place because otherwise the argument falls apart, and then and they'll. This is when he starts saying, "Oh, you're over talking me," or you're rambling now, or whatever.
This is what the atheists do.
Actually, I had a question, JG. The last time that you and I talked, you had mentioned that you think presuppositions need to be justified. Is that a position you still hold?
I thought about that a little bit more, and the presupposition, the starting point, is typically going to be circular in nature. So it's going to, for whatever reason, fall outside of the laws of logic, which is problematic in most conversations. But it tends to be a circular reason or a special plea in everybody's case. I think that's
not in mine.
I don't know. I kind of agree with you there, Jay, because there are things that we have to presume in order to make sense of the universe. I'll give you a practical example. It goes into a bit of interesting history for you. So in 1830 was the first railway death. It was the first opening of the Liverpool and Manchester Railway. And what happened was a group of passengers were on a train. It had stopped to take a water. And while they were sort of standing around, another train was coming the other direction. Everybody scrambled, and they didn't know what to do. And, a guy, he was like, a lord, he jumped onto the coach and the door swang open into the path of it, train ran over him, and he was the first railway death. But that train was traveling at 30 miles per hour. Now, today, if you want to cross the 30 mile per hour road, you can look and say, okay, well, with my presuppositions, I have an estimation of what speed is and how speed works. So I can look at the road and say, right, it's going to take me about 15 seconds to cross the road. If that car is estimated to be 20 seconds away, then I should make it without getting squashed. These are it's the building blocks, the foundation for constructing such forms of thinking and utilization of those presuppositions is what makes life work. If we didn't have it, it would be chaos. Nothing would make any sense. And of course, that's not the experience that we get in our daily lives.
I did want to say one thing. So it seems that what Jay was presenting there was something at least that seemed to be hinting at the Munchausen trilemma. And for those that don't know, the Munchausen trilemma is this idea. So Michael might have to jump in here. There's only three possibilities. I might just look it up. I can never remember them. One of them is circular. One of them is infinite regress. And
I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, it's the one in epistemology that all lines of reasoning,
all boil down to these three things,
are either going to be circular, in which the proof of some proposition presupposes the truth of that very proposition. It's going to be regressive, in which each proof requires a further proof ad infinitum, or it's going to be dogmatic. It just rests on accepted precepts, which are merely asserted rather than defended. But I would argue that outside of that, I think that there are things called, in like mathematical logic and stuff like that, there's something called a primitive notion, which is some sort of concept that is not defined in terms of any other like previously defined concepts. And I think that some of our beliefs are just what I would call primitive. They are furnished in virtue of our perceptive experience and nothing else. And that is why we can say I exist, and why I can say I know that I exist, despite the fact that I can't deductively prove it to somebody, because it is a primitive that is furnished in virtue of my perceptive experience.
Yes.
I can also say that I have some beliefs that are incorrigible. So, I mean, that the incorrigibility is another thing in epistemology.
Is that your definition of God, Leo?
Don't you be getting excited because Skylar's turned up now. Fucking Jill, you have to start shouting and all because Skylar's here. We don't want the attention. We're going to be ending soon anyway.
Like Leo, the very logic that you use to come to these conclusions is going to be circular, right?
No, it's not.
You utilize logic to check.
Well, classical logic isn't circular. I don't hold
the laws of logic, like A equals A, excluded middle.
Yeah, the law of identity, the law of excluded middle, and the law of non-contradiction.
Check and verify these things with the same law, right? It's circular.
Right.
Well, we don't actually verify these laws within classical logic. In fact, there was a guy, you might know him, his name was Kurt Gödel, and he in fact showed we can't do that. If we could, our logic wouldn't be a consistent system. These are known as Gödel's incompleteness theorems. Any formal axiomatic system that can be represented arithmetically will always, if it is consistent, that is, will intrinsically contain true statements that cannot be proven true from within the system. Any system that can be arithmeticized, holy fuck, I always butchered this word, arithmeticized, that does or does not contain true statements, that there are no true statements that cannot be proven, that it's just in virtue of that not a consistent system. And that's the first and second incompleteness theorems, respectively. So when we talk about, well, what's your foundation for logic? I don't even understand that question. Such a thing doesn't exist.
You mentioned, what was it, Mancheson's trilemma originally there? And infinite regress, circular, or dogmatic, one of those three.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have one of those that you claim is your starting point in particular?
No. I explained that my starting point are just going to be primitive beliefs that effectively we don't choose. They are furnished. They are beliefs that we have, conscious states of awareness that we have in virtue of having perceptual awareness of reality.
So
like we don't get to choose to be perceptively aware of what's going on around us. That isn't a thing that we can choose to kill ourselves and end it. I mean, I'm obviously speaking within reason here, but we
Nobody
don't choose to
listens to me. I'm
experience.
just going to mute everyone.
We just do, and so there are beliefs that are just primitive to that fact.
I like the way you think.
And that's where I start.
So I think you're choosing dogmatic. If I had to choose one of them, if I had to guess one of those, or you fall outside of the trilemma in your starting point?
I would say fall outside of the trilemma.
Really?
But if one wants to put it under the dogmatic camp, I don't really care.
Yeah,
I just take the view
seems
that most
unavoidable, actually.
Like the Munchausen trilemma isn't a thing that most epistemologists are really concerned about.
I've never even heard of it.
I would like to start aiming towards the end of the night. It's getting a wee bit late here. I have to get up and finish a spaceship in the morning and spray paint that motherfucker red before 2 p.m. when I leave her home. So I have that shit to do. I would like to work around the room as the stream is, unfortunately. Jill, you're first. Would you like to comment on what we have talked about tonight? Make a statement. And I don't want to say shill yourself, but everybody gets a go. So.
Oh, thanks for having me on. MathPig, that's all.
I appreciate you coming on and not being an asshole. I appreciate you talking to everyone and giving everyone the respect to a certain point that they deserve. And you and Mowdy, I think, had a wonderful conversation. And yeah, it goes to show that, I don't know, maybe you're capable of a conversation and don't feed the troll. You'll just make the
out
troll.
of people what you put into them.
Yeah, a lot nicer than the way I put it. Mowdy and Perfect, you are next. Go on ahead.
I just wanted to thank you for letting me come on and talk.
Like to shill yourself.
Everybody be awesome. For those of you that aren't feeling awesome, you're not alone. That's all.
Next up on the stream is Bree.
Yeah, thanks for having me in here and getting to flex my muscles against some precept stuff. So thank you for that too. I really haven't engaged with too much of it besides the toxic Dark Dawkins style of it. Maybe there's a softer side to precept. I don't know. JG was certainly taking a gentler approach to it than I have dealt with Dark anyhow. And I appreciate the apologists, especially for coming in here and kind of answering our questions on how they deal with their apologetics. So thank you, Jill and JG. Did we have any other apologists that came in here? I thought maybe there's one more that I missed.
The news unit, I wouldn't classify as an apologist. That's the particular person that pulled a gun on me and threatened to kill me with their bare hands. So that's why they didn't get in camera. That's why the stream didn't get to see them, and they just got the voice. Sammy, are you there?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, I just wanted to say what a wonderful, respectful conversation this was. Really enjoyed it. Thank you for letting me on.
We got to see your youthful face lying in bed. It's a win-win situation, you know. If JG, I can't see if you're there. Is JG still in the background? JG, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm here. I'll come back and talk about it again. I like to talk about starting points, and it was a respectful conversation. It's really appreciated. Thanks, guys.
If you're up for it, Jay, I would love to have just a chat and title the stream Presuppositionalists, you know, or Presuppositions. Me, you and Mowdy having a wee banter back and forth. Maybe Michael too, people interested in this topic. I would be, you know, interested in having a topic. Maybe next Saturday, you can come on and be my co-host, Jay. So, you know, I'm in charge, and then you get, you know, you can be my number two. and you'll have the respect that must be deserved with that, so you can control and talk, and I would very much enjoy that.
Okay, that could work. Yeah, talk about it. Appreciate it.
Next up for me is Richard.
There's only 2 words that are necessary for any apologetic concerning ancient religions. It's just multiple earths, full stop.
I'm building your
mic drop.
I'm building your
That was a
spaceship.
Madsenism mic drop right there.
That's the spaceship. It's got a seat. It's
I
got a
think I'm in
digital
love with Richard
display.
right now.
It even has a cup holder and an area for teddy bears and toilet holders with things painted on them. Like, it's the best spaceship ever.
I did want to say, if Richard speaking doesn't get you wet, well, the beard will.
This is why I have him on a Tuesday, and he does
that.
all the speaking. You know, after
He was
that,
talking about his little rocket ship, and
Laura, you are next in my list. So, Laura, all yours.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been nice to catch up with a few people. Hey, Mouty, haven't spoken to you for a while.
You were able to reference me as the proper rear admiral.
Exactly, yes. That's a very, very old joke.
That's a deep cut. We're gonna have to explain that to everyone at one point.
Yeah.
But not right
or
now.
leave it
Leave him hanging.
mysterious.
Leave it mysterious.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not a sir anymore. So I'm just a dame. I'm just a dame now.
Next up after that, we have Michael. Would you like to do your thing, Michael?
Yeah, thanks for having me, MathPig. It's a good break to come see your beautiful face, listen to your beautiful voice, chat with all you.
Hold on,
folks.
girl likes this. Girl likes this position. That's girl's favorite, you know.
Screenshot.
Elementary school photo poses. Yeah, I just have a lot of questions about the presupposition. I think it's interesting, genuine questions, not to try to pin you in a corner or anything. Leo kind of brought up some similar points, like the idea that logic's verified. That ship kind of fell apart early 20th century with people like Russell Whitehead, and the idea that logic's immutable also kind of fell apart with the advent of quantum mechanics. So I have a lot of follow-up questions there, but yeah, just thanks for the combo, Jay. Appreciate it.
I've got to say, Michael, that you say you think Presup might be interesting. I guarantee you, have a discussion with a hardcore arsehole Presupper. The amount of interesting would last for about 2 minutes.
Well, I can sample that. Hey, Michael, so in your worldview, what I would like to know is what is ultimate and foundational metaphysically that serves as the grounds for all knowledge and truth.
And unfortunately, Leo's internet broke. Oh, isn't that
Leo
a
just pulled out the
shame?
big guns. Leo, quit showing
But
off
Leo,
that big brain.
Leo makes a good point, though. I mean, there is a difference between presupposing things and the presuppositional apologetic.
I presuppose that Skylar is going to have an after party to this, so that's what I'm going to presuppose. No peer pressure or anything like that.
Am I
You know.
invited?
No, you
Am I
just presuppose that you're invited. and then you
Presuppose
will.
you're invited.
Because
you
that's
know.
how it works.
That's the way it works. That's the way it works. If I can say thank you to everybody that's turned up in the audience tonight. Thank you for everybody that's came and watched, the Patreons and everybody that contributes. And thank you to the panel. I appreciate. If I can just make reference to the poll, I did ask the audience. It doesn't look as good now. It looked better earlier. I took a picture. It was 25% Christian, 25% agnostic, and 50% atheist. We are now at 12% Christian, 4% non-theist, 50% atheist, and 33% agnostic. And as even as that has ended, I'm quite happy with that. You know, I appreciate everybody that comes by of all
Hold on
different
one second.
views.
I'm going to love bomb you, Robbie. Let's all give thanks to the fact that MathPig has hangs where Jill comes to have civil conversations. JG, civil conversations. We're willing to let down our guard and be vulnerable in attempting to understand each other. Not everybody creates this environment, and MathPig has. So Fucking bravo, my man.
You're only saying
Well
that
said.
because Red gave you permission
Well
to
said.
do whatever you wanted to me when I'm in Philly
That's
for
exactly
2 hours.
right, and
That's
I'm-
it. You're
what-
trying to butter me up. We get 8 on the way back.
Is it
8 hours
working?
on the way back.
Tell me more about my eyes.
Yeah. It's only because the
Enough
ring
about
light
me.
hits you that way, you know?
I
Yeah.
doubt she's watching it. Hey, Mouty, growl for Fiona.
I don't know if I have enough phlegm right now.
Oh.
We had Fiona in the pigsty recently. She was here. It's been a couple months ago, but she's been here recently.
Oh no, Fiona's in the pigsty,
She's
but
around.
you know she does be about and stuff. Yeah. Marty, is it possible for you to jam us out?
No, nothing's plugged in.
Ah, god damn it! You're gonna have to deal with my beautiful
Next
production.
time
Then.
you show up here.
Everybody should go to Skylar's. I do believe that it's linked in the chat. Let me see if I can pin that motherfucker.
I'm going to be in the hang in just a moment.
I don't know. Why can I not pin it? Why can I not? Oh yeah, replace. There you go. It's now the pin message. If anyone wants to go over and continue the hang, it'll be over in there. I'm going to go and hang with a wonderful other person who I don't have to talk this shit with. And yeah. Stop it. Right, everybody. I love.
I have a piano and
I'm gonna lay you down by the fire.
I thought you said nothing was plugged in. Nothing was plugged in.
Make you moan and perspire. We're gonna set this room and flowers.
Where's the
Making love,
fucking
gravy, love, gravy,
mute
love,
all?
making love, gravy.
There we go. That's the mute all button. Took me a minute. My mouse is running low on batteries. It's wireless. I have to. It does this. It's shit. Right. Everybody, I love everybody for joining. I really do. I hate labels. I was having this private conversation earlier. The need for people to put labels upon themselves. If you talk to everybody and you have a little bit of everything in you, not the way Sammy does, but find yourself. Don't use a label. Don't use this. Just, I'm me. I can have a wee bit of a Buddhist in me, wee bit of a 19-year-old in me, wee bit of a, I don't know, I'm just picking on Sammy now. Right, so everybody, don't forget, think for yourselves. None of us are right. None of us know what we're talking about. We're all full of shit, and we're just wankers on the internet that want attention. Take what we think, take what we say, think for yourselves. And on that note, I love you all and bye. No, fucking mouse.